Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be yet another Unsolved Mysteries video. This is probably one of the scariest cases that I've ever heard in my life. Something about it really creeps me out. If this happened to me, I honestly don't even know what I would do. And the fact that it's also so recent scares me because it could happen again. I don't know if that's all I'm gonna say, but for now. So without further ado, let's talk about The Watcher. So this terrifying story begins in June of 2014 in Westfield, New Jersey. In June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus closed on their 6-bedroom dream house at 657 Boulevard. So the couple had 3 children and they were doing some renovations around the house before they ended up moving in. Derek was actually doing some painting at the house one night when he decided to check the mail because they had been getting some bills and, you know, just mail like that. He noticed that on this envelope, handwritten in like really thick black lettering, it said, "To the new owner." Inside this envelope, there was a typed letter with some words that were incredibly concerning. The letter read, "Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now, and as it approaches its 110th birthday, I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s and my father in the 1960s. It is now my time. You know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. I see you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy." Obviously that is already concerning, but then it gets even freakier. The letter goes on to say, quote, "You have children. I have seen them. So far I think there are 3 that I have counted. Are there more on the way? Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Was your old house too small for the growing family, or was it agreed to bring me your children? Once I know their names, I will call to them and draw them to me. Who am I? Hundreds of cars pass by the house every single day. Maybe I am in one. Check all of the windows that can be seen from 657 Boulevard. Maybe I am in one. Look out any of the many windows in 657 Boulevard at all of the people who stroll by each day. Maybe I am one. Welcome, my friends, welcome. Let the party begin." And then the letter was signed, The Watcher. I would literally I literally actually don't even know what I would do. Imagine how upsetting that would be to just buy, first of all, $1 million house and, you know, sign the contract, do everything. You're, you know, legally bind into this dream home of yours. And then all of a sudden this fucking person is like threatening your children and also being creepy as hell, like watching you. I would not vibe. So, of course, Derek immediately called the police. Police didn't really do much about the letter. At first, they kind of just said, okay, well, don't tell anybody in the neighborhood, you know, that you got this letter because right now all of your neighbors are suspects. So just keep it to yourself and just kind of see what goes on. So, of course, that night, Derek and Maria decided to, you know, message the previous owners of the house who they bought it from, John and Andrea Woods. Because of the context of the letter saying, like, you know, we've been watching this house for this long, they obviously figured that it would be a possibility that the Woods family maybe heard from the Watcher as well. So they sent them an email asking, you know, who this Watcher is and had they gotten any previous letters from them. The next morning, Andrea Woods replied and said that they did actually receive a letter from the Watcher a couple of days before they moved out of the house. Now, she claims that they didn't think anything weird of it because they had lived in this house for 23 years and never had any weird experiences, so they saw the letter and kind of just crumbled it up and threw it away, which is pretty bait, and obviously the Broaddus family was very annoyed about this. So the family kind of pushed back their plans to move in at this point because they were kind of freaked out and they didn't want to bring their kids there that often. They were like really scared, but nonetheless, Maria was over at 657 Boulevard to check on some paint samples and to get the mail, and unfortunately she was met with another envelope, the same thick black lettering. This letter got even darker. It said, quote, "Welcome again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. The workers have been busy and I have been watching you unload carefully your personal belongings. The dumpster is a nice touch. The house is crying from all of the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard when I ran room to room, imagining the life with the rich occupants there. The house was full of life and young blood. Then it got old, and so did my father, but he kept watching until the day he died. Now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again. Have they found what is in the walls yet? In time they will. I am pleased to know your names now and the name of the young blood you have brought to me. You certainly say their names often. 657 Boulevard is anxious for you to move in. It has been years and years since the young blood ruled the hallways of the house. Have you found all of the secrets it holds yet? Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Like, what the hell would you do if you were in this situation? It is just absolutely terrifying. Basically, the Watcher went into detail about the children's names and even knew the order in which they were like born, like youngest to oldest. And, you know, just different personal details that were never obviously released to the public, but he even, like, knew their nicknames, which is so creepy because that clearly means that this person was listening. Not only were they watching, but they were listening. An even creepier circumstance is one of the Broaddus's daughters was painting on, like, the porch area, and just one day she was painting, and the Watcher actually brought this instance up in one of his letters and even said in the letter, is she the artist in the family? No. Like, no. Just no. The letter continues with, will they sleep in the attic? Or will you all sleep on the second floor? Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in. It will help me to know who is in which bedroom. Then I can plan better. All of the windows and doors in 657 Boulevard allow me to watch you and track you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the Watcher and have been in control of 657 Boulevard for the better part of 2 decades now. The Woods family turned it over to you. It was their time to move on and kindly sold it when I asked them to. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession, and now you are too, Broaddus family. Welcome to the product of your greed. Greed is what brought the past 3 families to 657 Boulevard, and now it has brought you to me. Have a happy moving in day. You know I will be watching. Signed, the Watcher. I would literally cry. I would literally lose my absolute mind. That's like not it for me. I don't do stuff like that. I honestly don't even know what I do. You buy a house, it's not like you just want to, like put it back on the market. Like, it's hard to sell a house. That's just complicated, and it's their dream house. Like, I actually feel really bad for them. Like, somebody is clearly listening and knows everything about them in such a creepy way. I hate it. So at this point, Derek and Maria completely stopped bringing their children to 657 Boulevard because clearly somebody was watching them, and obviously they didn't want that. And also, this was kind of where it got to the point where it was obvious that the letters were more threatening. And so Derek and Maria were kind of debating whether or not they wanted to move into their dream house at all. That quickly became a nightmare. So for several weeks, they just did not go back to 657 Boulevard. They were kind of like still having people, you know, fixing the house, but the actual Broaddus family had not been back. After several weeks, they received a 3rd letter that basically just said, where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard. It's missing you. For a while, the Broaddus family actually believed that somebody in their next door neighbor's house were the Watcher. The reason for this is the Langfords, who lived next door to 657 Boulevard, seemed to be odd, quote unquote. I don't know, but also it had like a perfect view of the porch where their daughter was painting, so like I guess that could be connecting, but nonetheless, they ended up not being able to find any evidence that it was the Langfords, and ultimately none of them were ruled as suspects because there was some DNA evidence on one of the letters and none of the Langfords were a match. Of course, the Broaddus family wanted to take as many security measures as they possibly could. They set up so many different security cameras, and Derek would even go stake out his own house, and he even hired private investigators to do the same thing, but ultimately they found no evidence of anything. 6 months after receiving the first letter, Derek and Maria decided to put their dream house back on the market. But word had already gotten out about the Watcher, so ultimately nobody wanted to buy this house. 1 year after initially buying the house, Derek and Maria actually filed a lawsuit against the Woods, the previous owners, because they felt like they should have disclosed that they had received this threatening letter and didn't tell them, because they received the letter before they actually closed on the deal. But unfortunately for the Broaddus family, the case was dismissed. Finally, in 2016, they were able to find people who would be willing to rent this home, and they had a clause like in the actual lease agreement saying that if they got any threatening letters and they felt unsafe, that they were allowed to terminate their lease. So finally, they ended up leasing the house to another family, and it seemed like all was going well until a fourth letter came. Just 2 weeks after the renters moved in, this letter came, and it said, quote, "Violent winds and bitter cold to the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife Maria. You wonder who the watcher is? Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me, one of the so-called neighbors who has no idea who the watcher could be. Or maybe you do know and are too scared to tell anyone. Good move. I walked by the news trucks when they took over my neighborhood and mocked me. I watched as you watched from the dark house in an attempt to find me. Telescopes and binoculars are wonderful inventions. 657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault and stood strong with its army of supporters barricading its gates. My soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard. With my orders, all hail the Watcher." The reason that they're saying like that they're supporters or whatever is because they actually wanted to split the house, like knock the entire house down and make it 2 new houses. But the state of New Jersey has some law basically where it was only off by like 3 feet because there had to be a certain amount of feet in between each house. So ultimately they were unable to do that. The Watcher continues to threaten, the Broaddus family by saying, quote, "Maybe a car accident, maybe a fire, maybe something as simple as a mild illness that never seems to go away but makes you feel sick day after day after day. Maybe the mysterious death of a pet, loved ones suddenly die, planes and cars and bicycles crash, bones break." So that little lovely note is the last letter that we actually ever heard from the Watcher. And what is horrifying about this is that the only letter that we know of. It could have happened again because in August of 2019, they finally sold 657 Boulevard. They sold a house for $960,000, which unfortunately for the Broaddus family is about a $400K loss, which would really suck, but honestly, I feel like it would, maybe be worth it to get the property off their hands. What's interesting is that the new homeowners decided to remain anonymous. So therefore it makes me wonder, have they gotten letters from the Watcher and they just like don't want to publicize it? Maybe they even are talking to the police department about it, and it's just like, I highly doubt they haven't gotten letters. Like, I would be very, very surprised. A lot of people have a lot of different theories about this, but none of them, honestly, to me, make any sense. Like, some people think that the Broadduses themselves wrote themselves the letters, but I really don't think so. The family talked about them having extreme emotional distress because of this. I don't think that they would threaten their own kids in the form of a letter. The reason that people even think that they did this is they think that they bought this $1 million house and were kind of financially swimming and not doing too good, so they wanted to be able to like sue the family, like sue the Woods family, and thought that they would like get something out of it because they got a letter and didn't say anything about it. I don't know if I believe that. I don't think it really makes much sense because they clearly had the intention of moving into the house. They spent like over $100K in renovations. I don't think that they would have done all that just to like end up selling it for like $960,000 at a $400K loss. Like, I feel like they would have just moved in, like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't think I actually believe that because I think that it makes way more sense because I think if they knew the letters weren't real because they sent them, I think when they lost the lawsuit, they would have just simply moved in. But nonetheless, what do you guys think about this case? I would love to know. The Watcher's story might be true. Like, maybe their family has been watching the house for that long. Maybe the other Watchers just didn't send letters, or maybe we just never heard about it. But either way, I find it to be really, really interesting, and I definitely would cry every day if that happened to me, because like, just buying a new house is supposed to be exciting and fun, especially when it's your dream house. Do you think the Watcher's still out there? Do you think that we're gonna hear from him again or her? Kind of gets me thinking that if the new owners were getting letters from the Watcher, that perhaps the media wouldn't know, because they probably would want to keep it quiet, because clearly the watcher probably just wants attention. But I don't know, I would be too scared that their threats were not so empty after all, because I don't know, when you're threatening people's like lives saying that you're watching them and their kids, it's obviously not something that you want to mess with, and very, very scary. What do you guys think about this story? I would love to know your opinions in the comments below. As for today's video, if you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this case, and if there's any other unsolved mysteries that you want me to cover, let me know in the comments below. As it, make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram, because I'm always posting really dope best shit on there. Subscribe for new videos every week, and I will see you guys later. Bye!